Okay, you want me to keep it focused on you?
Actually, both of us. Perfect. Yeah, you guys can just start recording.
Okay, second. Hang on. Okay, so this is our presentation on autism and vaccinations, and it's going to be based on the MMR controversy. So this controversy started about 2 decades ago. In the 1998 report in the Lancet, which was done by Andrew Wakefield, he had a research paper, he submitted a research paper that showed a connection between an increase in the number of children diagnosed with autism and the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination that is given universally to small children. This report ended up putting a lot of fear into the hearts of their parents, so a lot of parents, and especially in the UK, stopped giving the vaccination to their kids. Unfortunately, this caused the death of a lot of kids to these 3 illnesses because they didn't have the vaccination. After finding this out, eight international corporations, including the Center for Disease Control, tried to replicate his experiment. None of them found the same connection. After further investigation, it was found that he had practiced bad science. He had not had the study peer reviewed. He had not used a proper sample size. Nothing was really properly done, and it turns out he had his own motives to doing it that were personal. Wakefield was found guilty of medical malpractice later on, and is now banned from doing any doctoral practices in the UK.
So with all of that as a backdrop, this has been something that's touched us personally because Jordan has an autism spectrum disorder. I have Asperger's, another autism spectrum disorder. And we grew up going around the country speaking at different autism conferences, talking about the potential that people have with autism spectrum disorders and drawing out that potential. But in the process of all this, we saw a lot of people get kind of hyped up about the vaccines and finding a cure for autism. One of the big things about an autism spectrum disorder, or the autism spectrum, is it's such a broad spectrum. And the definition of autism spectrum disorders has changed and fluctuated over the last 30 years or so. 1991, Asperger's syndrome became a diagnosis. That's the year I was born. That's what I'm diagnosed with. It's the higher functioning end of the autism spectrum. But you also have people lower functioning and who might need assisted living the rest of their lives. The needs are very, very different. It's like saying that a broken pinky and broken ribs need to be treated the same way. They're broken bones, but the treatment you would give for a broken pinky and the treatment you would give for broken ribs are entirely different.
Not only that, the biggest thing we want to come across with this subject is that the whole thing is the fact that autism spectrum disorder has had a broadened definition in the past 30 years, and that's not a bad thing because the definition beforehand, basically, like anxiety and depression and like all other mental disorders, back in the day, to get that diagnosis, you basically had to be non-functioning. If you got that diagnosis, you were going to an institution and you were living in support. And in that regard, the broadening of autism has been a very positive impact on the community because had the definition been the same as it was before, Cameron wouldn't have been diagnosed and I would have been institutionalized based on the symptoms that we had. Neither one of those is the correct answer. So in all things, when it comes to mental disorders, an increase in the number of people diagnosed with a condition is not a bad thing, whether it's anxiety, ADHD, autism, anything like that. If it's a definitional change that causes the increase, which it has been the past 30 years, there is no reason to be concerned about the increase.
In addition to that, we focus primarily when we go around and speak on the potential that people with autism have. They're children of God just like you. And we all underestimate our potential And so it's a matter of drawing out that potential in those people. And the focus on the kind of the fight with the vaccination fight, it takes away from focusing on the real point. It takes away from focusing on finding a way to help these children of God bring out that beautiful potential within themselves. That's what this is about. This whole spat about vaccines distracts and detracts from that.
So that's it for us. Thank you all so much.